One more tune for you, and this is a tune we do every year. It's entitled Baja. And in this tune, each of these kids will improvise on these instruments, which they are just learning for the first time, or some of them have played a few notes before. So, Baja. Thank you. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
up, we have our percussion ensemble. Following our two pieces with percussion ensemble, we will take a brief intermission. We're doing something new this year, and we're having the marching band perform to close out. So we've got to clear all of this out of the way so our color guard can perform on the floor. So we'll have a brief intermission after this, but first up, we have the Ukrainian Bell Carol. While they're switching quickly for our final tune for percussion ensemble, this group, for those of you who were here last year, you can see we almost doubled in size. And that's a very exciting thing, and I know after being down at the middle school working there with Ms. Woodica, we've got many more coming up. So we are finding ways to try to cover this stage with as many instruments as possible. One of my goals we have is trying to get them to every different area that we can throughout the school year. So they're not just playing on snare drum, they're not just playing mallets, they have a combination of each. Our next concert coming up in the spring is going to be on March 1st, and that's actually going to be a chamber ensemble. So every single ensemble you see up here, both in concert band and in percussion ensemble, all the kids are going to break off into small groups and work independently in these small groups on a piece of their choosing. I'll give them two pieces to choose, and they're going to work collaboratively to develop their piece and perform in their small chamber ensemble. So that's a new unit we're adding this year, which will also give all of them a chance to take a lead role in basically in each and every group. That's going to be a really fun experience. We start next week, actually. We get started, so they get to find out more about that as we go forward. Our last tune here for percussion ensemble is called Big Yellow Mambo. We hope you enjoy. about 10-minute intermission to just clear out the bottom here and